Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erica Crespo with the Anti-Cancer Lifestyle Program. And with me today, I have Margaret Fletcher, our program's mindfulness expert and recent host of our Mindset Learning Circle. How are you doing today, Margaret?
Oh, thank you, Erica. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am great. Thank you. So happy to be here with you today. For our viewers, we're going to go through some of the most popular questions from our recent learning circle with Margaret so that all may learn from and benefit from her answers. Margaret is a mindfulness teacher trainer and co-founder at East Coast Mindfulness and created the mindfulness stress reduction curriculum pillar of our anti-cancer lifestyle course. As you might know, learning circles are intimate virtual events that we hold monthly, and they are essentially free hour-long conversations with our course experts like Margaret, who's with me here today. If you've gone through or are in the process of going through our online transformation course, these circles are definitely for you. Maybe you have questions about what you've learned or are learning, desire clarification, or simply want to optimize your anti-cancer lifestyle with the very experts who helped to create our course. So we recently held our Mindset Learning Circle, and these were some of the most compelling questions that were asked over that hour. Margaret, my first question for you, I'm sure many can relate to this. We had someone ask, I found it harder to practice mindfulness this past COVID year. Is that normal?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. And it speaks to the higher amount of challenge and even stress that we've all been facing in this year. So for myself, for lots of people, it stands to reason that with more challenge, there might be more anxiety, more busyness in the mind, and it feels like it's harder to practice. And when I say harder to practice, I already catch myself, meaning maybe I don't feel quite the same as I did a year ago when I would sit down to feel my
Mhm.
breath, feel the sensations in my body. And that doesn't mean it's not really well worth it. It's just that you're working with more. So it does make sense.
What about what do I do when it feels like practicing mindfulness is making me feel worse? I know sometimes I experience this too. You sit down for a practice and just all these negative thoughts and ideas start entering your brain.
Yeah. Well, in a kind of pure mindfulness practice period where we're simply practicing being with what is exactly as it is, sometimes we'll bump into that mode that we can get into, and in a way, it's like just focusing on that might make it feel like it's getting bigger. It might even be an invitation to fall into could say, like, fall into the spinning mind or the feelings of anxiety in the body, something like that. There are lots of ways to practice. And so on days like that, it might feel more supportive to do something like choose, for instance, focusing on the sounds in the environment. That is
Mhm.
a very simple landing place for attending. It might feel like
Mhm.
a day where we could do a kind of relaxation review. So I'll move through my body, and as I find things that are tense, I'll just ask myself, "Is there something I can loosen here?" That kind
Mhm.
of, a different form of focus can, sort of take us up and out of a spinning mind or an anxious body.
Mhm.
Might be days like that that you want to switch to a practice like that. There are lots of practices.
That's great advice. I found myself just now loosening my fingers a little bit when you said, "Is there something I can let go of?" Yeah, yeah. It's a great
Wonderful.
reminder we can give ourselves. Margaret, my next question for you is, can meditation help me sleep better?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some evidence that, that is the case, and it includes for those people who are in, cancer treatment that,
Mhm.
a mindfulness intervention in a group has helped folks to, in some sense, widen out their perspective on what they're going through.
Mhm.
Sometimes it can feel like we're very tightly focused on the difficulties, and
Mhm.
to open the perspective to feel like this is my body right now and it's alive and it's doing the best it can. That's a perspective.
Mhm.
Like we just said, to release thoughts that are spinning into worry and difficulty in the future. And that kind of practice, even to just dip into breathing and rest inside breathing as a way to let go of other things that we can get caught up in, can translate then into more capability to relax into sleep and
Mhm.
during sleep. Now, that's just speculation on my part as to the mechanism, but we do know that the research shows that meditation can help people sleep. We've seen that in studies that happened in the military, as I mentioned, with cancer survivors and with others.
What about stress and cancer? Does stress cause cancer, or do you think it could help it spread?
Yeah, yeah. So this is something that we cover in the full curriculum of the Anti-Cancer Lifestyle Program. I'll
Mhm.
just say, in a simple way, when we look at causation of disease, gosh, I'm talking like I'm a doctor. I'm not, but I've studied this quite a bit, and that there's something called proximal cause and distal cause,
Okay.
where proximal is more directly associated.
Mhm.
It's the mechanism of disease, and distal cause is more like risk factors that come around a given disease. Stress is a risk factor. It's not, I don't think that you're going to see any studies that show that stress was the direct cause of cancer. So it's why we bring it into the lifestyle management part, the lifestyle management curriculum here.
Mhm.
This is something that we can do for ourselves that help us to manage our own risk around cancer or cancer recurrence. But it's not something that we're going to say that stress caused that cancer. That's not in the research, so far as I know.
My next question for you, we had a participant ask, um, they have a stressful relationship with their boss and they feel knot in their stomach when they have to interact with this person. And looking for your recommendations on how to combat that. And I'm sure many people can relate to maybe there is someone in their lives, maybe not a boss, but that they have a tense relationship with. What do you recommend, Margaret?
Yeah, well, you said a tense relationship with, and that's really the key, is noticing that tension is a signal in the body that says stress, challenge, and the feeling in some sense of I can't quite figure out how to meet this situation. I'm going to tighten up, and it doesn't really allow us to drop into our own natural capabilities and wisdom.
Mhm.
So knowing this ahead of time, like often it'll be with someone who we've developed a pattern with.
Mhm.
And if you know something about this ahead of time, you can practice ahead of time. So I know I'm going into a meeting with this person. I can already feel the tension building in my stomach. So could I drop into my body and find a way to acknowledge this is here? And then to see something about what might be beneficial in this situation. Could be a number of things, all
Mhm.
kinds of things. It might be waiting to discuss a difficult topic. It might be deciding now's the time I am going to speak up on what the what the conflict is.
Mhm.
It might be to be curious about this sensation in my body, like what is it really telling me? It could be any kind of creativity that arises in the moment. We're all unique, but to caretake yourself around that kind of tension is probably
Mhm.
the most direct instruction I could give for someone who's in that position.
My last question for you today is how do we shut our brains off to really meditate? Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah. Um, yeah, my strongest recommendation is to give up any idea that you're gonna shut your brain off during meditation. Yeah, and, it's a I mean, it's a reasonable want, It's a reasonable desire because I think the reason that we want to do that is because we can feel the connection, even if it's not conscious, but we can feel the connection between a spinning mind and a tense body.
Mhm.
Yeah, and discomfort in the emotional realm. So the body and the mind are not disconnected, and these come together. So we'd really like to do that, but it's kind of like if you take up the battle with your mind, what you're going to do is train yourself to battle, and that's just more battle. So what might be useful in a situation that feels like that is to transfer your attention elsewhere. In other words, um, choose to tune into the sensations of breathing. So when we know that we're breathing, and we're knowing that we're breathing, we're connecting in at a, like a physiological and a neurophysiological
Mhm.
level outside the cognitive mind. And that interruption, even if we interrupt it and feel the breath for one breath, and then here goes the spinning mind again. Every time we interrupt, it's like we're lifting the needle from the old-fashioned record,
Mm.
taking ourselves out of that track and placing us into one where well-being is more aligned with what we're directly experiencing. And over time, we can learn how to lift the needles. Sometimes at first it feels, "Oh, this is really challenging. I keep falling back into that track, that song that keeps playing that's, not the one I wanna listen to." But over time, we can learn that, wow, we can actually remove ourselves from our minds being owned by a topic, redirect to other sensations, sounds, other images. We could remove ourselves in a way that it's not like we're trying to run away from the thought process, but we can create some distance that then allows us to relate with the kinds of thoughts that are coming up without being completely lost in them. So,
That's wonderful, and it's a great reminder that we have more control over what goes on in here than sometimes it feels like if we focus
mm,
and practice.
yeah, it's that's the key. It's
Yeah.
practicing, practicing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Margaret, for participating in this Q&A with us today. Um, this was wonderful, and everyone who's watching, if you're interested in learning more from Margaret, you can find her in the Mindset module of the Anti-Cancer Lifestyle course, and we look forward to another learning circle with you soon, Margaret.
Thank you, Erica.